Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. This week, I am joined by Ray Andersen, commonly known as Mr. Ray. Ray, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, my friend?
Good. Should I be calling you Mr. Ray, or does Ray work for you?
Basically, everything else goes to Mr. Ray. It's like I tell the teachers when I do schools, they go, I mean, who called Mr. Rogers Fred? His wife probably called him Mr. Rogers. You know?
That's right. That's exactly right. So, Mr. Ray is an entertainer in a whole bunch of genres. We want to get to all of them, but what he was just referring to is he spends a lot of time in schools doing a lot of assemblies and programs to discuss a wide variety of issues, just from general education to anti-bullying and things like that. So a wonderful, fun platform to kind of promote good things to kids. So give me a feel. How did you? Obviously, you've been a music guy all your life. So how did your career kind of move into this direction?
In 1994, my ex-wife was temping at a daycare, and she just invited me in. She goes, you know, the kids are off the walls today. Why don't you just come in, sing some of your beloved Beatles?
Mm-hmm.
They're the reason I'm talking to you.
Okay.
It's me and millions of other people. It's the reason.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the reason why I make music. And so I went in, and you know, I've always had one foot in like rock and roll and stuff. And like I grew up like with people like some young people may not know people like Danny Kaye, Dick Van Dyke, all these people that just transcended age. They were like big kids, you know. People say, "How do you do what you do?" I say, "I'm a stretched out 6-year-old." Well, that's what they were, you know. And so I just that was in my blood. So I went in and I sang, I don't know, Yellow Submarine and maybe ABCs. And the director just peered out. She goes, "You know, I'll start paying you if you want to come part time." I was like, "Really?" So that's all I needed to hear, because just when I started singing, I noticed the kids just looking at me and listening, and it was just there was some kind of this bridge, you know. It was a beautiful thing, you know, the innocence of children, and this is well before I had my own kids, child. So yeah, man, and that's just organically like that. That's how it started, and I started writing my own songs. And at those times, there were cassettes, and I couldn't make them fast enough.
Wow.
I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that it was like hand in glove. It's just like, you know, Michael Jordan finding a basketball. It was just like, you know, I always had some mild success with grown-up music, if I could just call it that. But
yeah, of course. Yeah,
there's just something about singing for kids and writing for kids, but yet having it musically sound like a song, like you know, that was not like a don't, you know, not like just all like fun and games, like serious melodies and chord movements and things like that. Anyway, it was just every day I feel so grateful to do that.
Well, I checked out some of your stuff on YouTube, and later on you could kind of, you know, tell people where they can find it. And this stuff's catchy. So I got to believe you're doing a performance at a school. I got to believe, you know, 2 minutes into your song, you have probably 300-400 kids just like singing along with you, which has got to make it very gratifying.
Yeah, no, it's insane. You know, now they have the smart speakers, so kids can just access my music so easily. And I literally step away from the mic like Billy Joel does for Piano Man sometimes, and they just sing the whole song. I don't let them sing the whole song, of course. I want
sure.
But they can, and it's just okay. It's what I always wanted for my grown-up music. But it's not like, you know, people hear sometimes I'm a kids musician. They go, "Oh, well, you know, that's good. At least you're making a living." I said, "No, you don't get it. I was born to do this. This is that.
Right.
I love this."
Yeah,
man.
So you still do some of the adult stuff as well? I mean, you just still do any other kind of performances?
Yeah, for sure. I just had a song in a movie starring Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things.
Sure.
Me and a gal pal of mine who's in. I have a David Bowie tribute band. I have an 80s Bowie tribute band called Bowie and Beyond. We do some glam rock stuff from the 70s and 80s as well.
Nice.
Thank you. It's so, I love it. We have 5. It's my thing, but I spread the lead vocal love. There's 5 lead vocals as well. And So her name is Reagan Richards, and she and I recorded it in my home studio. Linda Ronstadt's first song, Different Drum, written by Mike Nesmith. So anyway, that's in the movie called The Tutor, Tutor. Watch it. It came out in theaters for a couple of weeks.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so that was really exciting. And
is that the first song you've had that's been in a feature film?
Oh, I mean, I've had a couple over the years. In the late '90s, I had one. Can't remember the name. Corporate Ladder, I think was one. Yeah, but that's one of the biggest. What I just did. So, and an indie film, a couple of summers ago, a couple of Halloweens ago, remade. Do you know the Skeleton Man? The Skeleton Man. You know, to like that old
the Muffin Man.
Yeah, the Muffin Man. But they wanted it like So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that TikTok thing just went viral recently with that song. I don't know if you saw that recently.
Muffin Man.
Adam Lambert was on.
So now
he was on what's called Jimmy Fallon has this game show where it's not really a game show, but celebrities do like musical contests.
Oh yeah.
And what Adam Lambert had to do is he had to sing that song in Cher's. I think it was Cher's voice, and he had to sing it like Cher. So.
Oh my gosh.
It was Muffin Man, but not in that tune, but it was the words to Muffin Man and Cher's voice to the tune of one of her songs.
I gotta watch that.
And you gotta watch it. And what happened is, certain things just kind of take over on social media. Well, now it's a dance that goes along with it.
Wow.
And you have people dancing suddenly to Do You Know the Muffin Man? And this is literally in the past 6 weeks. So definitely that's funny you mentioned that song because I hadn't heard that song in probably 25 years. Wow. And now every time I go anywhere, I'm seeing, these kids are recording this with a silly dance. So that's pretty funny. So when I talk to some people who are writing music, and I've had a few other people on the podcast, we kind of talk about their process. So I imagine the process is probably slightly different when you're writing a kid's song, because obviously we're not necessarily talking about something from an experience in your life or a breakup or something like that. So when you're putting together a kid's song, what is your objective with that?
That's a great question. No one's ever asked me that. I appreciate that. It's I'm around kids so much, and I just have this affinity for just being that age and just seeing them. And I consider myself a good purveyor of just people in general. I love talking to people. I don't care if they're 3 or 53. I just and with everything going on in the world, it's so complex now, and there's so much for them to take in, more so than even 10 years ago, 7 to 10 years ago. I just try to make it simple, and my main messages are about kindness, never making fun of someone that looks different from them in size, color, just and I don't preach it, but I do talk about in between songs. I start by saying, who's a good listener? And of course, they all raise their hands. I said, that's great. I said, now, do we talk over someone when they're talking? They said, no. We take our turns. So now I have their attention, and I set up a song. One of my most popular songs is called Callie the Alien, about a blue-skinned alien that comes to our planet, and kids make fun of his skin color. It's blue. And he just teaches them about diversity. Never says the word, but he just teaches them to accept our differences. And so that's that's probably my most requested songs. And a theater group up in Verona called Pushcart Players is going to be a national musical. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they're going to take it on the road, like a small 4-member cast. And I wrote 8 new songs for it, and I'm so thrilled because it's my first foray into theatrical world. As a writer, and the woman who wrote the book, meaning the lyric, the script and everything. Because when I first got into this, a long time ago, people said writing the book. I mean, what do you mean the book? But it's the story. A lot of people don't know that though. Her name is Cheryl Burke, and she wrote that amazing book that became a movie, Soul Surfer, about Bethany Hamilton. Yeah,
fantastic movie, sure.
Right, very empowering for girls and boys.
Yeah,
she wrote that. That's her baby, and as well as other things. So she and I collaborated on this, and it comes out in the fall, and it's going to be small theaters and schools, coast to coast. So thrilled. So anyway, we'll see how it happens. Yeah.
So how many songs over time in the kids genre have you written?
I mean, about 70-ish.
Wow.
I would say 65, 70. Yeah.
Now, when you go to do a performance at a school, do you have your set, for lack of a better word, established beginning to end, or do you kind of go with what the audience is playing to, and you think, okay, based upon what I'm seeing, I want to do this instead, or is it all kind of scripted beginning to end?
No, it's definitely not scripted. I just want to feel out the room, and sometimes integrated within the kids are a special needs population,
Sure, yeah.
integrated within the other kids, and I love that because it gives those kids a chance to interact with children of that population spectrum, and it gives them a sense of kindness and affinity for that everybody's not the same.
Mhm.
So I love that. So to answer your question, I kind of just scope the room out. As a singer, I think a lot of us, we're really good, like I use the word again, purveyors, and just
Mhm.
who's in the audience, you play for the audience kind of. But I do have like a list on my head. Sometimes I keep it on my phone down on my board.
Sure.
And I just pick as I feel the room. But yeah, so.
Because nowadays you see a lot of these shows, and obviously they're all orchestrated because of, obviously, and I'm talking obviously big concerts, special effects, digital things, and so forth like that. We were in Vegas a few weeks ago. We saw Katy Perry, and my
Right.
kids knew the playlist before it because they Googled it.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, because it's the same show, because it's the same theatrics. So they basically knew, all right, this is song 1, this is song 2, all the way down to song 16 or whatever it was. So there's maybe some improvisation in between, maybe some conversations, but this is what she's going with, because
Yeah.
everything is, the props and the dancers and everything, are kind of.
Yeah, no, this is totally organic, and I mean, I tell kids, all right, everybody, we're going to sit down for a while, and after a few songs, I'll ask you to get up, and but I like them to. I do kind of my listening songs at first.
Yeah.
But almost all my songs have a message. Not every one. I mean, I'm not tedious like that.
Sure.
Like the days of the week, the number song about adding numbers for the first time. And
Those are the 2 songs I heard today. Those I went on and checked out, and I heard the ABC song, and I heard the days of the week, and then I heard the number song.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I
first
could probably sing. I could sing along with you. Probably. I got most of it down.
I learned from the best. The earworms. Lennon, McCartney, and oh my gosh, just melodies king. You gotta hook them. You gotta hook them. Just like I was.
So taking a step back to that. So what was it? Obviously, there were some great musical groups, obviously, in that time period you were growing up. And obviously, like a lot of people, you were a Beatles guy, no doubt. But what was it about them?
I was a Beatles guy, but I started out on drums because I first heard Ringo's drumming and
Mhm.
Charlie Watts from the Stones and Keith Moon. And I was just so hooked on rhythm. My mom and dad used to play bossa nova in the house and Latino music.
Okay.
Out of that beautiful heritage. But they just played that in Sinatra and the Great American Songbook. So I had those that music in my head as well. Forms of music, and I just gravitated toward drums. And so it was really like the Beatles, and but there were so many other people though that just kind of hooked me. And I remember when I first picked up guitar because the Beatles and like Bruce Springsteen played Chuck Berry, those riffs, just like
Sure.
songs. Like, so in the 90s, I got to play keyboards for a set with him. I got to do a
Oh
gig,
wow.
and that's like, it's like a kid just like shooting hoops with Steph Curry or something like that. It was like,
Mhm.
there'd be no Beatles, no Bruce Stones without that man. And there are moments in your life like that when you have kind of like temporary mentors. I mean, I just, and there were times I played with Bruce, 12 times in Asbury Park. I was in the Stone Pony house band called Cats on a Smooth Surface.
Mhm.
And he would do whole nights with us, man. And it was just so I never went to college. That was my college, the Stone Pony. I kid you not.
Sure.
So I've had these moments of just like defining moments of watching people, being on stage with them. And the biggest things I learned is when not to. A lot of musicians overplay. Not a lot.
Mhm.
Some musicians just tend to overplay. And I learned from them the gift of restraint.
Mhm.
So, sorry.
Well, that's awesome that you have different people, and obviously you're talking legends. And the funny thing is about this area right here.
Yeah.
You know, think about some of the musicians that are in a 15 or 20-mile radius from us here in Central Jersey.
Yeah, right?
when you think of Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and then if you go up north, you have other huge acts. It really is amazing. This small state has produced such legendary Sinatra. You could even go more modern with the Jonas Brothers. I mean, I'm really giving you a whole range of people, but it's really amazing out of this state what's come out.
Yeah, no, it's so true. People forget that sometimes. If you Google like famous musicians, songwriters in this area. Yeah.
And the Stone Pony, I mean, you can talk about that for a second. That's just a legendary place. I mean, both the indoor and the outdoor venue. I mean, they get some big acts there.
Yeah. No, I feel just very blessed. I was just right place, right time for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my daughter recently, like within the past week and a half, saw Demi Lovato was playing there. Nice. And it's just funny how you talk about careers and everything. 10 years ago we saw her at the Prudential Center. And the Strong Pony, she said it was such a better show because it was even though it was the outside, it was just so much more intimate. Even if you were standing towards the back, you were so close. It was just a great vibe, great atmosphere.
I took my daughter to see her too at Prudential. She's 18 now, my daughter. So like 7 years ago. 6-7 years ago. Yeah. With other artists.
Sure. I'll never forget the night I saw her. The night I saw her was the night Michael Jackson died. Because obviously her opening act, who at the time was, I'll think of his name, the guy from American Idol, David Archuleta, did a whole discussion about Michael Jackson. And obviously, she mentioned him too. So it actually leads to a funny question. Obviously, you mentioned Steph Curry before. Steph Curry could have an off night. He can shoot 2 for 10. And the next night he can't miss and he'll shoot, 9 or 10. So for you, what makes it a great night, a great performance versus, did not have my A game today?
Yeah, no. And, again, it doesn't matter if they're 3 years old or 53 or 43. It doesn't matter. I mean, I sound like such a name dropper, but I used to tour with Meatloaf, and he told me, he goes, never mail in a performance. He told me that, and he goes, it doesn't matter how few people there, how many people are there. I mean, those people come to see you. Those schools hire you. I mean, it's, never mail it in. And I do get nervous, even again, smallest audience, the youngest audience. Yeah. He told me that too, because when you stop being nervous, you stop caring.
You stop caring, sure.
It's so true. It's,
what's the, and the reason this came to mind is we're talking about Demi Lovato, and that was one of the nights that she was off. The entire production was off. She goes through her first whole number, and then afterwards she realizes her mic wasn't working. So we all knew it. We couldn't hear her. But she's dancing around. She's coming on the stage, sings a whole song. And then she finally said, well, I can't redo my entrance because the stages have moved and everything, but I'll at least re-sing the song.
Wow.
And then about 5 songs later, to the second chorus, one of her new songs, and she stops and goes, I'm sorry, I forgot the lyrics. And literally stopped singing her song. She forgot the words to her own song. So clearly off night for her. So you've had off days, I'm sure, not intentional. So what could you think of one of the worst things that's happened to you on stage where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening? Or have you luckily not had one of those?
Yeah. Wow. If I have to ponder, that means I haven't had.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, equipment has gone awry.
Sure.
Broken strings. That's probably the worst. There's some gigs where I did not bring a backup because I felt like, there are not a lot of people here. And sometimes when I break a string, I can make it into something like, okay, I need somebody to take their finger, come up here.
Yeah, sure. Well, then you make it fun.
Yeah, hold it down by the peg so it doesn't, and they won't get hurt if it comes. I don't let them do the whole time because if it comes to hit,
sure.
But just something just quickly and anyway.
Some of the things that I've seen over the years, to me, some of the biggest memories I have are when they're mistakes, and whether it's in a theater performance.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I saw The Producers on Broadway a long time ago, and it was when it was Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick.
Oh, nice.
And there's one scene where they're sitting on a couch with, I guess, one of the female characters. And she gets up and trips over her dress and falls down. Well, the two of them basically don't even try to improvise that she fell. But because it's them, they just start laughing hysterically. They're laughing. So they're laughing. So she starts laughing as she's laying on the floor. The crowd's going crazy that they're laughing. And they were able to get away with it because of who they were. And then about 30 seconds later, she gets back on the stage. He's like, all right, let's try it again. Crowd goes crazy because he made that comment, and on with the scene they went. But I don't remember a lot about that show, but I remember those 2 minutes as absolutely hysterical.
See, now that bursts through, the world that they're creating, but in a fun way, and it's something, she could have gotten hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
What about phone going off in the audience?
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's a whole different. I mean, I've seen footage of like major actors, like they're like doing this, and and I told you, and you're like, excuse me, please, can you? Oh my gosh, that must be such an affront to what they're doing,
No, absolutely. I mean, they're giving everything they have. I think an audience does have a responsibility.
Yeah,
and you see it a lot with comedians, and I get it nowadays with social media. Everyone's a little 10 seconds, and part of a comedian is they want fan interaction, and fans want to be in the show. Yeah. But if you're doing it to be in the show where you're ruining it for everyone else, and you're just trying to be I won't say it to the comedian, then I think you're out of line. You want to be picked on, you want to be entertaining, that's fine. And again, I go back to my circumstances. I saw, I don't know if you know the actor Jay Moore.
Jay Moore, yeah.
He's been in a lot of movies, but he's a stand-up comic. And I saw him down in Monmouth, I think like Stress Factory, one of those places. And he's talking, and this one guy is just heckling the crap out of him. I mean, like not even like joking around, like he's being nasty. So he engages him long enough for security to find the guy. Because remember, we're all in the dark.
Yeah.
And basically, then he got the crowd going again. He goes, how dumb are you? You talked long enough to get found out. And he got kicked out of the thing, and he got kicked out. But that's what made it good, was how he handled it. But while this guy's doing it, everyone's like, just shut up. The guy was obviously drunk. And it was taking away from everyone else, just like a phone ringing in a theater or, something like that. Because I got to imagine with kids, you're looking at a room of 200 or 300 kids. There's probably 40 of them that are looking the other way. God knows what they're doing with their hands, stuff like that, talking to their neighbor. So
yeah, I mean, you can't keep their attention the entire to everyone. Correct. But I do my best,
Yeah.
So my eyes are on all of them.
Right.
I just, I stopped doing older kids. Well, to me, older kid. My heart and soul is really pre-K to third grade. The fourth and fifth graders. Sometimes the fifth graders just kind of like this. The boys will be looking at me like this the entire time.
Well, you're cool. At that point, you're not cool.
I'm way too sensitive an artist for that.
Yeah, you can't have the audience giving you the thumbs down.
Oh my gosh, and I get it, man. They're growing up in like pop and hip hop and stuff.
But I think there's also a stigma. They can't like you if the first graders in the same room think you're cool.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. If you were in there with them alone, it would have been different. But because the first graders are rocking out to you, having a great time, they can't do it.
And I have done that. I have done just fourth and fifth graders, but I had my anti-bullying assembly. I can't do too many of those now because a lot of guidance counselors and principals want me to stay away from the word bullying.
Yes.
If one kid does wrong, they're deemed a bully. But bullies are repeat offenders, so it's okay. It's fine. They know what they're doing, and I'm not gonna. I never argue about it. That was just like a little. It was a project I did. Referred to before called No Room for Bullies, specifically geared for fourth, fifth graders. Yeah. But the lyrics are a little bit more, more sophisticated, darker. Not dark, but you know what I'm saying. But sure,
it's a heavier topic.
It is, really is.
And bullying has evolved greatly over the past 10 years because of social media. And bullying is now, it's easier to do because the cowards that are bullies can now do it behind a phone, and not necessarily, to someone's face. So it's much easier to do it when no one can see what you're doing.
This is the first time I'm mentioning that I'm working on a program for mental health. It's called the Wellbeing Human, and colon the path to mental health. And so it's what it is. It's I'm going to be doing it for high school kids, but this older guy will be singing. I'm writing the songs, but I'm going to hire young kids to sing it, like first year college kids.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks. So I formed a nonprofit called Being Human. So I'm in the midst of writing the songs for that. So hopefully for next school year, I'll debut it. Let's see.
And that's more like a high school program, you said?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's just all about what these kids are going through.
Yeah.
All I'll say is that I'm going through some of this in my family. So
Sure.
somebody I'm very close to. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's more common than not. I think a lot of families are going through it, and it's a hidden thing, and not a lot of people know what other people's struggles are, which I think is one of the biggest components of mental, mental issues and things like that.
yeah, these phones they dare other kids. It's everything's so immediate. And
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm tethered to my phone for what I do,
Of course.
just socially and everything. But it's just, oh my gosh,
Listen, I've heard it several times, and I have two daughters, 22 and 17, and luckily, knock on wood, they're, they do well. But, and I've talked with their friends, and as we're just like hanging around, and you see a picture on a social media platform, and that's one of two things. That's a split second of joy, which you don't know how the people were 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, or it wasn't even a split second of joy. It was a fabricated picture
100%.
to indicate a moment of joy. And when you see someone's having so much fun or doing this or doing that, sometimes they are, but you never see someone post a picture for everyone to see of themselves having a miserable time. It's only the good.
Yeah, like I did a school today, and there was a 13-year-old boy who's kind of apprenticing to be like, not a teacher, but just to help out.
Sure.
The preschool that I did. And I pulled up, and I say this with no ego. He's like, "Are you Mr. Ray?"
Yeah.
And he started naming my songs and telling me, just how important he was a child. And as we started talking, I don't know how we got on the subject of mental health. He shared with me his 17-and-a-half-year-old brother took his life,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave him a hug, and in the audience were his two younger siblings watching and listening to me. Anyway, it's pervasive. It really is, man.
Yeah. Well, it's great that at least that's a cause that's important to you.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. And the bullying thing, I understand that it's a super important issue, but I understand how guidance counselors and obviously need to deal with it in the way, they feel it's right. So as we just kind of got through a pandemic, how did that affect, what you did? Because obviously live performances are probably halted, especially in schools, for a long time. So how did you pivot your career around that?
Yeah, you're talking to a full-time musician, and luckily I have streams from Apple, Amazon, and Spotify that kind of got me along, happy to say. But I had Zoom performances, and but with Zoom, there's a 3-second delay, so I can't have the kids clap to my music. I have to turn the sound down because they're at it, they sync, it's not their fault. It's like, oh my gosh. So, and they're just, I can't charge the same as I do as a live performance. So it was tough for this full-time musician, man. It was just really tough. It was a nightmare. Oh my gosh, not just for me, of course. I mean, people lost so many things, but I managed to stay afloat. To answer your question, my friend.
Good.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah.
Good. Good. So talk briefly, because, obviously you mentioned your nonprofit, which I think is a wonderful cause. So if someone wanted to, get involved with that or donate and so forth, how can they find that? I think you said it was called Well-Being Human.
Yeah, right. The Well-Being Human, the mental health connection. So, I mean, I don't have anything set up, wise yet. It's just that new.
Okay.
So, appreciate you asking me that, but yeah, it's newly formed nonprofit, which is such a wonderful feeling, by the way. Yeah, so now I'm just finishing writing the songs, and it's the first time I'm ever talking about it. Anyway, it
feels good to finally talk about it.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's good to work harder on it now. You hear that, Ray? Finish.
Well, now you have to, because it's out there now. So talk about how people can find you, online and stuff like that.
Everywhere. Just look for Mr. Ray Music on Instagram, Facebook. I think it's YouTube. It's also Mr. Ray or Mr. Ray Music. For my kids' stuff. But I have a link tree. Some people don't know what Linktree is. Linktree.com/Ray Andersen Music. Linktree.com/Ray Andersen Music. Andersen is SEN, not SON. Andersen Music. And there you could see everything from my Bowie, Mr. Ray, to like solo bar performances. Everything's there. It's like
awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, you've seen Linktree, right? You know this.
I've heard of it. Yes, I've heard of it from some of the other people I work with. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just list all your sites and social media content. It's cool. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. It was really interesting to hear from you. Like I said, I checked you out before. I love that kind of stuff. I love people that work with kids. I think it's it's awesome you made a career out of it, because it's just an admirable thing. You're taking your time to kind of educate them, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you. You're a very nice human being. I appreciate this time. Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too, my friend.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have a question related to this episode or have a request for what you would like to hear, please email us at marketing@adeptuscpas.com. You can also find us at adeptuscpas.com online or follow us at Adeptus on social media. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.